Had a wonderful sleep in right near the border, and now it's walking through customs Mark II. And there again is the United States-Canada borderline. International boundary. Right back in my home country, I guess. It feels so weird as a hiker being held up by a traffic light. It caught me completely off guard how much things have changed just after crossing the border. Like, I went from all these sweet tiny tourist towns with these narrow streets to wide streets, huge brick buildings, this bridge. I mean, it's a different kind of interesting for sure. There's not nearly as much life in this town as there was in that town in Quebec though. Although, to be fair, those towns are kind of touristy towns where these seem to be sort of on the edge of the United States, like far from anything. People stop in other towns instead of this one, so that's fair. But yeah, it's much more dumpy than any of the towns I passed through on the way from Montreal. That's it right there. That's the long trail. Let's get to this bloody thing. I'm probably gonna have to hitchhike. I might stick out my thumb eventually, I might not. To be honest, it's been a lot of fun walking down these roads, so I almost sort of feel like doing that. After 5 hours of road walking today, that's my first white blaze. This is the long trail. So I'm unfortunately gonna have to go north to get to the border of Vermont and the start of the long trail itself, which means doubling back, right back to this place, and then continuing to walk. So I'm gonna have to do one mountain twice. It's a nice day though. I could have dumped my pack for the out and back to the border, but I just kind of felt good keeping it on. And of course, as soon as I start going through the United States, I'm on one of the worst designed trails I've been on in the last month and a half. Just made it to the Canada border again, third time this year. And this time it's the start of the long trail, or the end of the long trail, but the start of the last section of the long trail for me. So in case you haven't seen my AT stuff, I have walked the Appalachian Trail, which includes half the long trail, and now I am walking the northern half southbound to get to central Vermont and then go back north into Canada again for my flight out of here. But anyway, 260 kilometers, and I should be in, what's that town? Rutland. So it should be a nice hike. I've liked the section I took to get here, the 4-kilometer walk from the road. I'm going to have to reverse those steps. Now I'm just enjoying the scenery, but it is late in the day, so I'm gonna try and get some miles done before the evening, hopefully around 10 miles. Here's the official terminus. The much more boring one, just back from the border slash in the forest. I did just meet one hiker who has just finished up her hike on the long trail, which is pretty cool. But that was the first hiker I've met all day. I'm very, very curious as to how many people I actually meet on this trail, because it's later in the season. It's a much nicer time for hiking than the last time I was in Vermont on the Appalachian Trail. So that makes me think there might be some more hikers, but we'll see. The vast majority of hikers I met on the long trail section of the Appalachian Trail were long trail or section hikers. They weren't Appalachian Trail hikers, which makes me think that this trail should be very populated. But in this season, I don't really know. It's a great time of year right now. No bugs, tons of sunshine, perfect weather. It's not too hot. There's not too much mud. And also, I think I've just started noticing a few of the trees turning colors, which is interesting. It's kind of funny they have a sign for this. They didn't have that on the Appalachian Trail. Either way, I guess this means I'm relatively far south. Lots of mud. Definitely further south than I was at the end of my last hike, though. One aspect of Vermont I've kind of erased from my mind is how terrible the spring water is. It's just all this horrible, murky stuff. I don't think I ever had this perfect, crystal clear spring water I was imagining I would have in the north up when I was on the Appalachian Trail, and this is no exception. Just the water is so much better up in Maine and then also down in Georgia, but between those places it looks like crap and it tastes like crap. Welcome to the Laura Woodward Shelter. Best spring water I've tasted in Vermont, which is really not saying much. Shelter is completely empty, which is nice. I haven't seen anyone all day except for the hiker who has just finished this trail. Spare sleeping mat, that's gonna make for a nice rest as long as it's not moldy or anything. And I climb my first real mountain tomorrow, Jay Peak. I actually see the silhouette of it right now. Apparently there's a ski resort on the top, so maybe I might even get some snacks. I'm trying my best to stop getting my feet wet because I just don't want wet feet, but ultimately it's kind of pointless to try. This trail is very similar to the Appalachian Trail in Maine. Really not too bad, not too many obstacles. Basically no technical scrambling or anything like that. Just good old-fashioned mud and a fairly rugged, eroded trail. So this is what I'm dealing with right now, just a bunch of big fat rolling hills, ski resorts. It's nice hiking. Pretty muddy, but it's nice hiking. Welcome to Jay Peak. First major peak I came across on the long trail. Like all these other big peaks in Vermont, I think this one's pretty overdeveloped. Big fat ski slope on the top. I was planning to stay near here at the base of this mountain for the night last night, but I'm really happy I didn't because I was just passed by this hiker who stayed there, and he spent like 5 minutes telling me about how I was wrong for carrying the setup I carried, even though I told him I did the Appalachian Trail with it. This trail is always screwed up, but it's always interesting screwed up. So here we have this nice big rock platform with a ledge I can use as a foothold. And I'm just walking my way up that ledge and onto the big platform. Excuse me for the hand on the lens. And I'm up there. And there's a whole bunch of obstacles like this, and they're kind of fun. All right. This really is like Maine. Nice lakes like this one. Well, this tower doesn't hurt. This is Belvedere Mountain. In a moment, I'm going to be plunging down into the valley, climbing up some hill on the other side, camping probably after dark, considering I'm pretty late. I hope that rain doesn't catch up to me. That doesn't look fun. Anyway, solid views. Damn, this place is hilly, isn't it? So I don't think I properly explained it, but the reason why I'm going so fast on the long trail is because I have a flight booked out of Montreal for September the 6th. I have had it booked for a long time, and I need to get there, and there's no direct connection, no direct transport link between the place where I'm finishing this little section hike and Montreal, which means I really want to allocate a few extra days to hitchhike out to Montreal. And that means that I need to really get to the end of this hike by September the 1st, which means doing 36 kilometers a day through very difficult terrain. So as a result, I have been pushing myself, and it turns out that I need to push myself a bit harder because it is pretty dark. It's very much the evening, and I was hoping to be in camp by this time, and I am not. I still have like 2 or 3 kilometers to go. So yeah, I really need to get up earlier, go faster in the future days. Welcome to Devil's Gulch. Pretty cool place, kind of reminds me of some parts of New York in a few ways. I'm probably just gonna go through this and then camp on the other side. Apparently there's a really nice hut up here. Morning shelter was nice, although what was completely unexpected was that there were 4 other people sleeping in it and 2 others camped nearby. Very crowded shelter. And of course, to contrast, the last shelter was completely empty and I barely saw any people yesterday. So yeah, I guess there's just these few moments where different people are in one place, and then otherwise it's generally quite empty on this trail. So this is the trail right now, way more benign than yesterday. Far less cliffs and mud than I've seen on the long trail so far. It's a good section. I think this is the sweetest looking shelter I've come across on trail so far, on the long trail. These shelters are definitely much better than the ones on the Appalachian Trail itself. They're pretty sweet. Take a check inside. Yeah, there we go. Nice place. There was all this food that was inside the shelter, so I'm gonna have a snack on that. Hope I don't get poisoned. I think that is Mount Mansfield. That is the tallest peak in Vermont. And I'm probably climbing it tomorrow if my schedule lines up. Almost 50 miles down. As for how much there is to go, I think it's around 150, maybe less. Not very much. Another solid view. The cliffs look pretty high. Apparently there's some good rock climbing around here. I would have liked to try it if I had the chance, but as it is, pretty low on time, pretty low on opportunity. Time to keep going. Just went to Dollar General for what might be my very last American diabetes resupply. Now it's time to get back on the trail. All of today's hiking has felt very distinctly like the White Mountains. Very, very similar in how hard it is, and how rocky it is, and how sketchy it is. So you have like these rock slabs like this, just basically sheer down, which I really have to take my time with. and it seems like it's going to be like this all day. This is really going to slow me down, but at least the slowdown is for a good reason. Well, these are far from the most ideal conditions. I've just been going up wet, slimy rocks the whole time. Luckily, this is a bit of a break with this wide open ski field, and it looks like I'm about to get to the top of this mountain. So I just looked it up on my app, and the average gradients for today so far for the first 10 kilometers was 18 degrees. You never see that on far out. That's outrageous. And I've been feeling it every step of the way, just constant scrambling, constant rocks. Very much like the whites. Slightly easier if anything, but still very tough. Of all the non-views I've seen today, this is my favorite for sure. Sterling Pond, it looks kind of ethereal with all this mist. So this is Elephant's Head Cliff, and right up there, that's Mount Mansfield. That's the tallest mountain in Vermont and the tallest mountain on the long trail. So I was going to climb that thing when I set out this morning, but to be honest, with all these clouds and just with all the madness this trail has caught me through already today, I didn't think I'm going to do it. It just doesn't seem worth it. So instead, there's a bypass trail which bypasses most of the summit ridgeline and should still give me some good views if these clouds clear up, which I hope they do. Well, this mountain is developed. Ski resort machinery and trails everywhere. Most of the way up this trail now, the Hasselton Trail, I think it's called, and it is so much more well built than the long trail. It's been very sweet. Just kind of a reminder that the trail doesn't need to be murderously horrible in order for you to have a good time in the wilderness and the Appalachians. The flowers and totally fantastic views from this spot. That's Mount Mansfield right there. That's the summit. I've had a really good time up here, and taking the shorter route will mean that I have more time on the mountain before scrambling back down. I don't just have to go down that ridge as fast as I possibly can to have any chance of getting to the base by twilight. So I'm on the forehead right now, the forehead of Mount Mansfield. Absolutely blows away any other view I've seen in Vermont so far. I have had better views in the other direction going up here, but this is a pretty brilliant view of what's to come. Just more rolling mountains on and on and on. It looks like out there, the final mountain you can see, that's Camel's Hump. So I'm hoping to summit that in good weather tomorrow, although it's going to be a long way coming before we actually get there. Out there, beyond that lake, that's the Adirondacks in New York. That's the first time I've actually seen that mountain range, which means now I've seen every mountain range in the northeast of the United States, which is pretty nice. Every major one. So I decided, because I was skipping the highest summit of Mansfield, I might just take a very quick detour on the way to camp. So I'm very close to camp, I think about 300 meters away. And I'm just making my way through this notch. Kind of a lot like Mahoosuc Notch. And in case that isn't cool enough, this trail just leads me straight through this cave. Not that I can see very much, I'm sure you can't. But it's pretty cool. I probably should take out my head torch, but I'm a bit too stubborn to, and I think I can make it to the other side without it. So this is the shelter I ended up in. I forget the name. It's massive, tons of bunks everywhere. It has this big gate at the entrance. It swings closed. And this very nice porch. Big picnic benches, pretty good view. Yeah, very unique shelter. A lot like the other long trail shelters. Each one is kind of different, which I really value. And I have the whole place to myself. In case you're wondering what I'm having for dinner, it's rice with beans and tuna. Just got up at the hut. It's 7:45. It's looking like a nice day. Very cold right now, but it's looking good. So if you're wondering how tough this hiking is, it's a bit like the White Mountains in that... Okay, this is a bit technical. As I was saying, it's a bit like the White Mountains in that it gets much harder as I go above the conifer line, so to speak. So once you get into this very pine-dominated forest, then the walking gets much rockier with these large rock steps, and I get slowed down a lot. So this hiking was very common in New Hampshire and Maine on the Appalachian Trail. That being said, this is also spending a lot less time in elevation than the Appalachian Trail did in New Hampshire. So New Hampshire's tallest peak was 1,900 meters. Vermont's tallest peak was 1,300. I went over that yesterday. And I'm not going above around 1,250 again on this hike. So much lower, which means a lot less of this pine forest stuff, which means easier trail. I would compare it to central Maine on the Appalachian Trail. Sweet filtered views over there. I can actually see a city over there. I don't even know which one it is, but anyway, onward. That's my next hill. Here at Puffer Shelter, near the top of Bolton Mountain. I think that's one of the best views I've seen from a shelter in the entire Appalachians. It's pretty great. I have to say that very few of these shelters on the long trail have been bad shelters. They've all had some serious redeeming qualities so far. So I had to land my drone very, very quickly because a hawk was attacking it, which caused me to find out that a drone propeller can, in fact, slice open your fingers. That was not a very nice thing to find out. I've suffered more painful things on trail. I'm really liking the Appalachians in Vermont. There's another ski resort. I don't think Vermont has enough of them. I've only passed like 5 or 6. It's nice to see one of these again. I really like these signs. There's a lot of them in America. That's Camel's Hump. It's gonna be today's tallest point. I think it's around 1,250 meters. Looks cool as hell. But of course I need to get there first before enjoying the view. I really didn't expect this. Just so much of the way up this mountain has been these big, wide ledges like this one with epic views. And it's been like this like half the way up the mountain. Very, very consistent. Well, this has been a pretty huge turnaround. Excuse my hair, I couldn't be bothered to fix it for the 15th time. So this is Camel's Hump, third tallest peak in Vermont. Also the only tall peak in Vermont that doesn't have a ski lift, apparently. Just absolutely epic views. Definitely ranks in maybe the top 10, if not the top 3 this year from any mountain. Just incredible. Behind me you can see the Adirondacks in New York. Out there, that's Mount Killington, which I just came over. With all the other mountains I just came over as well. Over there, that's the White Mountains. I actually saw this mountain from the White Mountains, so it's pretty good to see those again. And then out there you have the rest of the Green Mountain Range. And I'm just going to be sticking to the top of those things for another 100 kilometers before I finally finish this hike on the long trail. Just outstanding view, incredible stuff. I couldn't be happier being up here at this time. The trail is pretty steep as always. You know, like the Appalachian Trail, the long trail does go over basically every single mountain in its path. But for some reason, it doesn't feel as unfair as the Appalachian Trail. It feels like most of the climbs you do are at least very interesting, or at least they are, you know, reciprocated. They kind of reward you, at least to some degree, in at least one way. You cannot really say the same for the Appalachian Trail. And I feel like the long trail is more intelligently constructed when it comes to providing scenery as well than the Appalachian Trail. The Appalachian Trail doesn't really seem that great on that front. Again, really nothing to complain about with these views. I almost wish that I spent more time at the summit and even camped there, but I'm grateful for the extra mileage I could get today. Because I'm almost to the hut, it's only about 900 meters away now. Good morning. I had a bunch of people at the campsite last night because the hut was full. And it was a really nice time sitting there chatting with them this morning and last night. It's good to have some social interaction on this trail for once. But they're heading north and I'm heading south, so it's time to go on alone. I've heard that the first 5 kilometers of today are pretty seriously tough. And then from there, it's probably going to be pretty cruisy for the entire rest of the hike. Today's first summit. Burnt Rock Mountain. Just brilliant views all the way through all these awesome ledges. Feels a lot like the climb up Campbell's Hump on the other side, actually. People were saying that the route over here and the route up here southbound were going to be pretty difficult, pretty serious. But to be honest, it really has felt like business as usual. I haven't really noticed anything that caught my eye about difficulty, so I think it might just be northbounders who haven't seen anything this hard before on the long trail and were kind of scared of it. And yeah, I've gone through a lot of this going south, but it should end pretty soon. Lots of really fun scrambling here. I'm so happy this exists. And the views too. More steepness and more rebar. Sitting on top of Mount Ellen, third highest peak in Vermont, about as tall as Camel's Hump. Great view. I'm sitting on the ski lift. So, a lot of New Englanders place some importance on 4,000 foot peaks. And this is the last 4,000 foot peak on my journey. I'm not climbing anymore. This is Mount Abraham. Brilliant views in basically all directions, and especially towards the south. So that is Killington Peak right there. I have it confirmed. And that's where I'm ending my hike, at the base of that. I'm not even climbing it. Which means that I'm so close, I might as well just go to the finish. I am running out of battery, I'm running out of food. I was going to go into town, but I've just realized that I'm so close to the end of the trail that it just feels good, it feels right to just keep on walking on these ridges. Maybe I'm going to be hungry, maybe I'm not going to be able to use my phone as much as I would like to, but I just, that's what I feel like doing. So it's 80 kilometers, 2 days to the end. From here I can see it, and I think I'm just going to go through, even if it might be a bit painful toward the end. I've just descended Lincoln and Abraham Peaks. I'm gonna camp pretty soon. Most of today was pretty rocky, a lot rockier than expected, somewhat technical coming down Abraham, but since Lincoln Gap, which was my last road, it's been very, very mellow, just all like this the whole way. So we'll see how long this persists. Maybe it's gonna get worse later on. Just left the shelter and it's 6:30. That's the earliest start I've had on the entire long trail so far. And as you can tell by what I'm wearing, it's pretty cold. It's been cold for the last 3 nights now. And that's kind of worrying because I think there's gonna be some rain coming today. Not really sure how much or when, or if there's thunderstorms too, but we'll see. So this is a wilderness trail I'm walking on now, and it doesn't feel nearly as well used as much of the long trail. It's pretty spongy, it's pretty soft, and there isn't nearly as much erosion or exposed rock, which is good. So it actually does make for easier hiking, but definitely less well used. There were some people sharing the campsite with me, more than I was expecting actually, but I didn't really talk too much with them because I arrived pretty late and I wanted to get going pretty early. Amazing views today. Hope they continue. I have to say, I have had no complaints about how good the trail is today. It's been consistently very, very nice, very well maintained, and completely devoid of those horrible rock slabs the whole day. And it's made for easy hiking. I hope this continues. 16 more kilometers of wilderness to go, and then I'm out to a place which I guess might be less wildernessy. I was gonna have lunch at this view because it's nice, but I've realized that I forgot to bring any water up here, so I'm just gonna have to starve and die of thirst for the next hour because all the food I have left is one large family pack of instant mashed potatoes, and those need water. So I'm just gonna keep on going to the next stream. It's noon and I've just hit 23.5 kilometers, which is, I think, the most I've done in any morning in the Appalachians. It's pretty great. I don't think I'll match that in the afternoon though, just because there's gonna be rain. Just climbed my last substantial summit on the long trail. I am gonna do one more summit tomorrow, but that's really just a hill. These are the Horrid Cliffs. That's actually what they're called. Definitely the best view I've had all day, which is not saying much due to these clouds. I'm almost to the campsite, and I'm very surprised it hasn't rained yet. It really looks like death on the radar. Just finished crossing this wilderness. That's the last of those signs I'm gonna see. I really like those signs, actually. I'm a big fan of them. So I've mentioned a couple days ago that I'm a bit low on battery and food. And in case you're wondering how I'm doing now, my phone's at around 15%. My power bank has enough battery to maybe charge my phone by another 20 or 30% until that runs dead. My head torch is going pretty well in terms of battery, so I don't think I will need to charge it. And as for food, I have enough for one dinner and that's it. But luckily the place where I'm going to camp, which I'm very close to now, is only around 25 kilometers away from the end. So I might do those 25 hungry, but I can make it. I know because I've done worse on this trail. Welcome to Sunrise Shelter, 25 kilometers away from Main Junction and my finish to the long trail. It's a nice shelter. It's only about 4:30, so I could push on, but then I would just end up at a worse shelter and probably get rained on. So I think staying here is probably the best move. No one here at the moment. There's probably going to be more rolling up later on. I kind of hope there will be. 6:40, I just got up, so I'll leave at 7. There is no one here. No one got into this place during the night. And I am going to race to the end before hunger overtakes me. I'm 10 kilometers from the junction now, just climbing the last hill. And something amazing happened. A bunch of hikers passed, and I did beg for food, and some of them gave me some food. So I feel a lot better now than I did at the start of the day. I am still going to be very, very happy to reach the end of my hike and reach Rutland, because I'm still sort of suffering. It's gonna take a while for this food to enter my bloodstream properly, so yeah. So I got slowed down for like an hour just now, but for the best reason. So I just reached the very last shelter on the long trail for me, which is so close to the Appalachian Trail that some Appalachian Trail hikers actually go out there and stay there for the night. And there was a ridge runner there, and we had the longest chat about the Appalachian Trail and about the trails I did this year and about the long trail. And it was just such a good way of wrapping up this whole hike for me. And yeah, that was just really cool. So I was gonna say my final impressions about the long trail as I finish it. I would say it was definitely some of the best hiking I've done all year. Easily, for sure. Not really sure exactly how it would compare to the Whites or Maine, because it is quite different. But it's 100% worth it. It's one of the best standalone through hikes. Probably the best through hike. Like the Appalachian Trail and the IETR through hike. Probably the best through hike I've done this year. Fantastic. Great stuff. I've absolutely loved it. It's either easy or it's scenic the entire way through. Unfortunately, it's not both of those things at the same time typically, but you know, the best views are the views you work for. And now I've just been walking for the last 2 days, really, through this wonderful forest. This is the best the green tunnel has been. A lot of times it's been sunny, now it's not, but you know, I'm still pretty happy. Lots of these duck boards. I haven't seen these duck boards in a while, and I think that means I'm getting close. Oh my God, that's it. This is it. As of this moment, I have finished the long trail. Technically kind of a through hike because I did it in one season. Specifically a flip-flop through hike because I did half the trail one direction and half the trail the other. So, that's it. It's done. AT completed. Long trail completed. I'm now walking toward the road. I think this trail is going to lead me there. And then I will head over to the inn on the long trail, which apparently has amazing food. I'm gonna wait there for the bus. I'm gonna take the bus into town. It's a free bus. I'm gonna stay at a hostel in town. It's a free hostel. And that's it. I finished my through hiking for this year in North America. I've wrapped things up. I'm just so happy for the amazing diversity of experiences that I've had. And it's not over yet because I'm doing more hiking in Australia. Inside the Yellow Deli.
That's this side, and then there's another side right here.
These are the stairs of the Yellow Deli. There's a white blaze. It's quite the place.